Daniel Taylor.
Yo, what's good guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to arrange your samples properly. As usual, I'm going to be going through a sample that I made recently. This sample in particular is from a sample pack called Cascade that I dropped with Dreamer. It's got 20 samples, all guitar, in the style of like Gunna, Internet Money, YSL. So yeah, I'll leave a link down in the description for that if you're interested. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna go and show how I arrange my samples so that when people click on them to preview and when they pull them in to use them, it just makes sense. So let's get right into it. Alright, so as you can see, I got this sample pulled up here. Like I said, I'm just gonna go over quickly. I'm not gonna go too in depth with it, but I'm gonna go over my thought process behind how I arrange my samples. As you can see, we got a bunch of different parts in the sample itself, and then we have the stems afterwards as always. But I'm gonna go ahead and play the sample so you can hear it, and then we'll get into all that. Alright, so as you can hear, there's a lot of moving parts throughout the sample. As you can see, the instruments drop in and out just for different variation throughout the sample, and then I have the stems afterwards. This is my thought process when I go to arrange my samples. For the first part, I always have the most going on so that when people click on the sample, they can actually hear what the sample sounds like. I see a lot of people who start their samples off with an intro, and you can do that, but when people click on it to listen to it, to preview it, it's going to sound really boring and they're not going to actually be able to hear all the sounds that are in the sample. So they might just click away and move on because they think it's boring, when in reality they haven't actually even heard the sample. So I always include the most going on at the very beginning so that when people click on it, it sounds interesting, it sounds full, they can actually hear everything that's in the sample. And then I add variation throughout the sample so that they can chop it if they want. I also always include a bass, and I always include the bass at the beginning for two reasons. One, it just sounds a lot better, it fills out the frequencies, it makes it sound more loud. And two, when you're laying down an 808, it gives people the option to follow the actual root note of the bass, so it makes it a lot easier to stay in key with the 808s when you lay down the 808 just on top of the bass. So what I do is I always have the most going on at the very beginning with the bass, and then I copy that section over without the bass and put it at the very end. So as you can see, this end section right here is the same thing as this beginning, just without the bass. And that's how I always arrange my samples. I have that at the beginning, and then whatever was at the beginning, I just remove the bass and put it at the end. And the reason why I do that is so that people who would prefer to just chop the sample and not use the stems, they have the option to use the part with the bass for like an intro or a bridge or whatever, or they can just not use that section at all and they still have the section right here without the bass if they want to use it. So once I have that, I just add variation throughout the sample. So as you can see, I have this part right here where the guitar counter melody cuts out, and so it just plays the main guitar melody with the bell, then the vocal. Once that section is over, I drop the vocal and the bell, and I just have a section where the guitar is playing with the counter melody, and then a section where the guitar is playing without the counter melody, and then again just the end, which is the same thing as the first part, just without the bass. So basically you just want to have the most going on at the beginning so that when people click on it, it sounds very interesting as the bass sounds full. Then you also have that same section at the end without the bass so that people have the option, and then you have variation in between so that if people really want to just are too lazy to use the stems and they want to just chop the sample, they have variation and they can actually use the different parts. So I have that option for people who don't want to use the stems, and then I also include the stems for people that actually prefer to chop the stems and arrange it however they want. So I recommend arranging your samples like that so that people have both options. They can either just chop the sample or use the stems. And obviously I keep the stems separated a little bit so that if there's any delay or reverb, they don't bleed into each other. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how I arrange my samples. Again, I just have everything playing at the very beginning to make it interesting, add some variation so that people can chop the sample, and then I have the stems afterwards separated so that they're not bleeding into each other. And so yeah, so you have options for people who like stems, you have options for people who want to just chop the sample, you have options for people who want to use the bass, not use the bass. You kind of have it all included right there. So that's how I would recommend arranging your samples, and that's generally how I approach arranging most of my samples. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you took something away from this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.